Hello, Dr. Monga. Thank you so much for talking to us. Maybe we should start with what work does UNIDO do globally and what work does UNIDO do in Africa, especially in context of the renewable energy industry.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to be with you today. Basically, UNIDO is a specialized UN agency focusing on sustainable industrial development. And we are working basically in developing countries and economies in transition to promote solutions that bring about resource efficiency, trade capacity building and poverty reduction. As a Director of Energy and Climate Change Program at UNIDO, my role is to really advise governments how to move towards low carbon, low emission technologies, and we have three pillars there under our program. One is industrial energy efficiency, focusing on ISO 50001 and systems approach. Second is renewable energy for productive uses, and third is low carbon technologies. Coming to Africa, like we were discussing earlier, I do believe that renewables can make a lot of difference, not only have access to energy in Africa and other part of the world, but also renewables can do very well so far as small and medium scale enterprises are concerned, to really convert from what we call fuel switching from fossil fuels to renewables for their heating and cooling applications. And we are very happy that as UN system agency we are able to assist developing countries, especially in Africa, which are really facing a lot of crises so far as energy poverty is concerned. We can really help them to move towards a more resource efficient, energy efficient pathways.
Mr. Kappiah, the next question is for you. The ECOWAS covers a large number of countries. I was wondering how, when you're doing projects and trying to implement them and bring change about through the Renewable Energy Initiative, how difficult is it to get regional cooperation amongst countries, because it must be a big stumbling block while you're trying to implement projects?
Thank you very much. Them also, as Dr. Monga just did, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our center and what we do in West Africa. I come from the ECOWAS Center for Renewable Energy Efficiency, and as part of my work, I really worked earlier in the ECOWAS Commission itself, which is based in Abuja, Nigeria, and that tries to foster regional cooperation among the 15 countries of ECOWAS, or West Africa. It is from there ECRI was born, sure, with the support of UNIDO's technical assistance. The ECOWAS Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency was established with headquarters in Cape Verde. So since going to Cape Verde, our objective has been, how do we get the countries together collectively, taking decisions as to policy issues? How do we come out with a collective idea of what target do we want to meet in this type of energy renewable or this type of energy efficiency? And it's been working very well. Interestingly, officers in these ministries find it even difficult to go up to their ministers to tell them that this is the idea. The minister may not be an expert in the area, but we coming from the regional organization could go up to the minister and tell her this is a good idea, and interestingly they seem to listen to us, and we seem to even have more access to that. That gives us an opportunity that the officers on the ground did not have, and now that also opens up. Once we start the idea, then they fall back to their officers. What this man said, does it make any sense? Then the officer gives you an opportunity to then tell him, yes sir, this is what we should be doing, we can take it this way, we have looked at the documents, and this advise the minister appropriately. Then the ministers, they come back to meet and they take a collective decision. I think the regional cooperation helps to create certain things that in country, particularly for some of the countries which are very difficult, some particular decisions which are very difficult, it helps to create that opportunity for the decisions to be taken. And we're talking of a country like Senegal, for instance, a very typical example. Although they had the renewable energy law, there were a lot of bottlenecks in that law that could not work. And in November last year, after our Accra forum, somebody from the Senegalese had invited me that they have this problem. So when I went to Senegal, we met with the ministry officials, the private sector actors, and the other development partners who were interested in this area. When we met and we started identifying the problems they have in their renewable energy law, then the minister said, is that it? Then we are going to change this law. When he said we were going to change it, because the utility was put in the middle of the law and they were blocking everything. The following day, the utility was chasing the private sector actors and signing MOUs of cooperation to ensure that those projects go on. If not, they were going to be taken out of the equation. So this is actually some of the things a regional cooperation can do. Sometimes the ministers are not technical biased. They don't even know what is happening in some of the laws, some of the areas there. And sometimes the junior officers do not have that easy access to them to expose certain things to them. But when we come in, then some of these things can come to light and things can be put in the right order. So this is actually one good aspect of the regional cooperation. Sure, the countries are very different, but after having worked together for over 30 years, we begin to understand ourselves and we begin to see the importance of regional cooperation, and it's beginning to work now.
If I can add to what Mr. Mahama has mentioned, regional cooperation becomes very important, especially when we talk about least developed countries which are there in the ECOWAS region, because if we take private sector an engine of growth for jobs, for energy markets, these small countries, economies of scale don't work. So private sector is not willing to come there because there are risk on the investment, there are risk on markets being very small. But together as a region, they become attractive market for consumers, for the products, and the companies are ready to move in. And once the outside FDIs and companies move in, then the local companies also develop as a part of value chain. So I feel regional markets becomes very, very relevant as a starting point, what we call sustainable markets, scaling of markets in this region so far as energy and climate technologies are concerned.
Mr. Kappiah, my question is to you. Despite abundant natural resources, Africa faces energy poverty. And on top of it, a lot of this mineral wealth is being mined and exported. I mean, shouldn't Africans themselves have first access to this energy?
Thank you very much. I like your question so much. This is the real paradox of Africa, particularly our region, the ECOWAS region. We are a net exporter of fossil fuels. I think one country, Nigeria alone, is in, I think, the 9th leading exporter of fossil fuels in the world. So, but unfortunately, and Nigeria also is one of the leading countries in the flaring of gas. Yeah, but you can just imagine, you will be surprised that there are days that almost the whole Nigeria goes for almost 12 hours without electricity. This is the paradox of Africa. And Nigeria is a country that I can say has more blackouts than any other West African country. You don't understand where the situation, where the problem comes from. And this situation has been there for almost 20 years. Governments upon governments have tried to solve it, but it is getting very complicated. So you don't know where the problem. You see governments make pronouncements, they try to show the political will, but in the end, at the implementation level, you don't see the results coming still. So it's very difficult to understand where this problem really comes from. Even countries that do not have that much resources have a lot more reliable electricity. And you look at it and you don't, and Nigeria is quite a big country. Now the population is almost 180 million people. And that's really a big economy. It's not that small. So all these people having to go without electricity, you can just imagine. So it's a question that we all find it difficult to answer.
But Mr. Kappiah, can't the African nations, by focusing on South-South cooperation and also regional cooperation between themselves, be able to sort these problems out? After all, Africa is a continent of 54 countries, with a country like South Africa leading the continent.
I strongly believe that one way to go now is to try to expand our tentacles towards the south. Why? Because we have been linked up so much to the north. And if we realize that it's not giving us the required results, and there is now a window of opportunity, why don't you exploit it? So you see in my presentation, I said, for our target for this year is to strengthen ourselves with the South, to expand on our South-South cooperation, to see how can we get South-South cooperation in the development of the numerous projects that are presented. We have so many countries showing the interest, they are ready to move, and sure, we don't rely on only North. Now let's look towards the South. How can we develop South-South cooperation with countries like India, China, Brazil, and see how can we make a difference? So that is our main focus now. China of late has been making inroads, and they are really investing a lot in the region and developing corporations. And we have what do you call it, ECOWAS China forums twice a year. Every year we have one in ECOWAS and the second in China. And we have done it for 2 years successfully. And this year there will be 2 again. So we are ECOWAS is beginning to establish relations with Brazil. And I believe this year, you know, I can tell you that 3 years ago, when Lula was still the president of Brazil, he participated in the ECOWAS summit of heads of states, where he met all the 15 heads of states, and they already underlined the what we call it, the line of cooperation. That cooperation is also developing very soon, and we will now start having ECOWAS Brazil summits coming, while India is still behind this process. So it's now people like us from the energy sector who are trying to bring India in. So there's not just ECOWAS China, ECOWAS Brazil, there will be ECOWAS India as well. So whilst here, I met with the Minister for New and Renewable Energy, and he's very much interested in this cooperation. You see, how can we work together to make sure that it happens, so that India is not left behind in this ECOWAS quest for South-South cooperation. So we're in it, and I think the government side is very much interested as well. So we see where to take it.